Hi, I'm Brainerd Carey. Today I'm going to talk about how a gallery works. This is for artists so that they understand not only how to work with galleries better, but how you can use some of these techniques to sell your work yourself. Again, in this video, I'm going to talk about galleries for visual artists largely, but anything that you see in an art gallery today around the world, I'm going to talk about how that process works, how gallerists sell work that way, and how you can work with gallerists. So to begin with, a gallery, an art gallery, is a for-profit store, essentially. It's a business, and anybody can open one up. It doesn't take any special expertise. You don't have to be an art historian. You can just be a person that wants to open up a gallery. And the way a typical gallery model works is this. They have a beautiful space, hopefully. They have good lighting and nice walls. And if you work with a gallery, what the gallery does is basically takes the artist's work on consignment. So let's just say it's paintings, and I'm talking about drawings, all kinds of visual art, anything you could see in a gallery. But for example, a painter, the gallery takes the paintings on consignment essentially, which means they don't pay for them. They don't necessarily even pay for the shipping of them into the gallery. They show the work, and if the work sells, they give the artist 50% of the retail price. So if you are working with a gallery and you give them two paintings, each painting is worth 1,000 US dollars, and they sell one of the paintings for $1,000, you would get $500. That's the model. That's the business model of how a gallery works. You can see it's actually very good for the gallery. They do very little. They get half the money of the artwork. But of course, from the artist's point of view, it's also very good because without having to sell the work yourself, it sells and you get half of the money. So if you want, more money for your work, of course, you have to raise the prices and work with a gallery that can sell it for that amount. But I'll talk about that shortly. But just to be clear, in the beginning, that's the model for a gallery. So let's say you're working with one gallery and they're selling paintings or drawings or sculptures or digital prints of yours or photographs, something. If you're selling work there, that's great. You would be getting, a portion of sales. But galleries don't continue to sell usually consistently year round. So what's ideal is if you can get several galleries, let's say 2, 3, 4, they're all selling different types of work or maybe the same kinds of prints, different things, and they're all taking about 50%. Because it does vary a little bit. The most is 50%. That's typical. But some are 40, some, can change. So if you have several galleries, it can really amount to a serious income. One thing I want to be very, very clear about is the model of a gallery should never be that you pay to exhibit, right? These days, there's a lot of what I call scams of galleries saying to artists, we want to show your work, just pay this much and we'll take care of the rest. If you're paying a gallery to show your work, they don't have an incentive to sell it. The incentive is they get 50%, right? So you don't have to pay anything. Sometimes they say, oh, pay all this money to show in our gallery, and if the work sells, we only take a 20% commission. That's because they're not going to sell any work. There's no one there to sell the work. So let's talk about how work is sold, because that's what I think is very important. And again, in summary, so far, the gallery model is they take your work on consignment. It's a 50-50 split if it sells, and you get 50%. There should be a contract with every gallery that explains exactly when you'll get the money after something sells, and that something is on consignment with them. A contract with every gallery is an absolute must. And how you reach these galleries, of course, I teach courses but just to be brief, you can go to any gallery and ask them if they look at the work of new artists. And if they do, introduce yourself. Ask, who can I send work to? Okay, so that's how a gallery works. Now, what I want to talk about is how they sell work, right? Because what a gallery does, a good one, is they're just selling, selling, selling all the time. That's what they do. That's what you want them to do. What's important to know right off the top is every gallery has a kind of sales or price sweet spot, which means that there's a certain range that they sell work for. And if I've interviewed a lot of gallerists, and what they'll say is, it seems that in our area, the prices are between 1 and 5,000 generally, mostly around 3,000. They'll say something like that. So they've already decided what the ideal price is for their gallery, what the market will bear, what the neighborhood will bear, what the collectors will pay coming in there. In many ways, this is their own kind of idea completely, because in the same city you can have galleries saying, the most we can sell work for is $5,000, and then you'll have a gallery on the same block saying our range is between $10,000 and $20,000. They're after a different kind of person, a different kind of collector with more money, obviously, and I'll talk about that. But just to be clear, every gallery has what's called the sweet spot of the range of where they're selling work. If you want to know what that sweet spot is in any gallery, because you're probably looking at galleries, checking them out, thinking, this would be a good one for me, perhaps. And one way to know if a gallery is good for you is to walk in and just check out the work on the walls, see if you like it. And if you like it, that's one indicator. And then ask for a price list. You just go up to the front and say, can I see a price list for this work? And usually they'll give you a price list. That price list is more or less the gallery's sweet spot. The average price in there is kind of what they sell work for. So I'm just saying each gallery has one. I'm going to get into their selling techniques now, but the sweet spot is important to understand, because you don't want to go to a gallery that's either out of your range, too high, or below your range, too low. And what is your range? It's based on what you've sold work before. If you make, let's say, paintings or photographs, and you need to get at least, $1,000 or $500 a print, whatever it is, then you need a gallery that sells it for at least double that, right? So you can take home $1,000 or $500. Okay, so that's just the parentheses on every gallery has a sweet spot that should be part of what you're thinking of when looking at a gallery. So I want to talk about some techniques they use to sell work, actually, and it's telling. My wife and I were recently in a gallery. It was in New Haven, Connecticut, and they were selling some prints on of look like etchings of Salvador Dali. We looked around quickly. It's a contemporary gallery. It was kind of an unusual thing to see, and then we looked and began walking out the door. As we were walking out the door, the woman at the gallery says, excuse me. There was kind of one person in the gallery, a woman behind a desk. She said, excuse me, can I ask you one question before you go? And so I turned around and I said, yeah, what? She said, which one is your favorite in here? Do you mind me asking? I thought, okay, that's an interesting question, right? Very, very specific question. Which one is your favorite? Assuming I have a favorite. But even if I didn't have a favorite, there's probably one I liked more than the others. And I didn't really like the work that much. So I looked around and I pointed. That was easy enough to do. Oh, that one's my favorite, right? Something like that. And then she says to me, oh, that's a beautiful one. Do you mind if I just tell you a few things about that? Because I love that one. So I said, okay, now I'm walking back into the gallery, right? This is the anatomy of a sale, right? This is how it worked. And I didn't buy it, but this is how close it came. So then I come back in, she starts talking to me about the print, it was a print, it was an etching that was done from an old edition that's been reproduced in a kind of modern way. And so she said, yeah, this is a very small edition, and this was an etching Dali did. And she starts kind of telling me the artist's story. Now, Dali is already famous, but she starts breaking down some of the symbols in it. She said, here, this looks like Dali is what happened was he's angry with the bishop of the church because he won't let him get married in the church because Dali had been divorced before. So this print was a little bit about him being upset with the church, and so that was an interesting story, right? She told me that story, and I thought, that's cool. And then she said, oh, and Mick Taylor owns one of these. We have special private parties for the owners of these prints, and I don't know what she's talking about exactly, but I thought, okay, that sounds nice. And she said, do you like this? And I said, yeah, it's a nice print. She said, well, you could own it for $300. And I said, $300? And she said, well, $300 down, as little as $300 down, then we can work out a payment plan and you can have it hanging in your home. And I imagined this huge Dali print with a giant frame hanging in my home. And I thought, wow, now it's seeming possible to buy, and I would never buy something like that. $300 down, and then pay as you wish. So I didn't buy it, of course, but that was a sales technique, and that's one you could even use in your studio. Which one is your favorite? You say to somebody there. Which one of these is your favorite? Because even if someone can't talk about art, they can point to one and say, "Oh, that one's my favorite." So then they point to that, and then you can say to them, um, let me tell you a little bit about that. And then tell them why it's special, which is what she did. And then that person feels kind of intelligent and flattered, and ask them questions. Anyway, that's one sales technique. Another is addition sales. If they're selling prints, right? Photographs, digital prints, galleries sell those in often editions. So that means they say there's only, which she was really doing to me then, but they say something like, "Oh, this is an edition of 100." So this first print here, the edition size of 100 is limited. There's no more after that. But the prints that are numbered 1 to 10 are, let's say, $100. The prints that are measured that are numbered 11 to 50 are $200. The prints numbered 50 to 75 are $500. They go up. Does that make sense? The edition, as it sells, starts increasing in price. So gallerists often show a photograph or a print, and then talk a little bit about what it is, and in terms of its price, they say, okay, this print is, let's say, $500. It's the beginning of the edition. It's a limited edition of 100. If you buy it now, you get the price of $500. If you don't buy it now, right, because people say, "Oh, let me think about it, I'll come back." Well, if you come back and 10 of these are sold, the price will be increased. It'll be more. So if you buy it now, it'll likely increase in price by the next time you come. If you don't buy it now, you'll probably miss out on that. That's one technique of selling prints, and you can use it too if you want. The other technique, of course, is a third selling technique is to tell the artist's story a little bit. This is a classic with galleries, and even the galleries, the example that I gave you about Dali is telling me his story a little bit, right? So gallerists often will talk about a particular work and tell the artist's story, where he or she comes from, what their what their background is, what they think about, what the work is about. So all of those things are kind of important to understand, because this is what a gallery wants from you as an artist. This is what they want from you. They want to know your story a little bit. They want to know how to sell your work with that story a little bit. They want to know if you want to do additions. And of course, they want to know if the price of your work is in their sweet spot, is in their range, which is really important. And I think in summary of all of this is about getting a gallery, right? And again, not paying for a gallery. You never want to pay for a gallery. You want the galleries to pay you. They take your work on consignment. That's enough. You give them 50%. That can be an income, but not from one gallery. You need several galleries to develop a steady income, because they all might sell your work at different rates. They will sell your work at different rates, but the more, the better. That way, if one closes or it doesn't work out, there's always more. So that's important. And this is how a gallery works. These are some of their sales techniques, and it's how they work. If you want to know even more, one important thing to do as an artist is to begin to collect art yourself. Even if you don't have much money, to go into a gallery and begin seriously looking at work and consider buying something, because you may find that you can buy things on a payment plan. And even if you don't buy things from a gallery, look around and consider buying, start shopping, because what that teaches you about is the world of collecting. One artist told me, look, if you want to be in the game of collecting, be in the game of collecting, right? You want to work with collectors and be in their game, then collect yourself, because you'll understand what's happening in that world of collecting. And you'll be talking to gallerists, and they'll be trying to sell you a work, and you have them in the hot seat now, right? They're saying to you, like, this is beautiful, and why, and that'll teach you everything you need to know about how to present your work to them, right? Because a gallerist is, again, looking for the story to tell, the way to sell your work in terms of, you know, who you are, what the work is about, and your story, and whether it's editioned, and more things like that. So collecting art yourself can be a very valuable process indeed, and get you in that kind of inner circle of knowledge that that you'd only know if you were selling regularly through a gallery. You'll know what the collector is thinking. You'll know how the gallery perceives the collector. So I hope this video was helpful. Again, this is about how a gallery works, and I'm talking about some of their sales techniques, some of their sales secrets, essentially, which is the ones that I mentioned, from editioning sales to the kind of which one is your favorite technique, and then telling them about it, to explaining or unlocking a picture the way that Dali image was unlocked for me, telling the artist's story so that the viewer gets insight into the work, and finally, you know, one kind of overall thing that that galleries do is that are very successful is they're on the phone with people, and this is really kind of the big kind of outer circle of all of this, right? I'm talking about all these different techniques of talking, of what galleries want to hear. Often this is, you know, in person at galleries, but the way gallerists also make sales is they're talking to people. And this is a very difficult thing in the kind of age of everybody's emailing, everybody's texting, nobody's actually talking on the phone that much. But I just interviewed a gallerist last week, actually, who has multiple galleries all over the world, and basically she says, I'm on the phone, I'm chit-chatting with people all the time. And I think we all underestimate that. But, you know, an email back and forth, do you like this work? Here's another example. Or hoping people will buy something from the internet. When you talk to somebody, when you're actually talking back and forth on the phone about your work and asking them which one is your favorite, things move so much faster. You know, when you're calling a gallery and talking to them and saying, did you get my letter? Did you see those works? I was in your gallery last week. Things move so much faster. I know that's the hardest thing to do, to actually call and talk and do that on a regular basis. But often the people who are really making a lot of deals and a lot of sales, that's just what they're doing. They're talking to people because it's all personal in the end, right? It's all about trust. It's about your art, but then it's all about trust, you know, in so many ways. And hearing the voice and going back and forth builds more trust than emails alone. So again, I hope this was helpful. This was the video on how a gallery works with their many strategies, and also how you can use them to work with galleries. If you have any comments, don't hesitate to ask. As a member of Praxis Center, you have support on all of this. And if you want to be in Praxis Center, there's information about that below. Thanks, and have a great day.